Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Gwen. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, thanks so much for being here. I have some fun and easy DIYs and ideas for you for fall. Some are DIYs, some are just ideas for how to use Dollar Tree items for your home decor. So the first DIY I'm doing is a combination of two projects because I did have to do all my spray painting at once. But this first one here is going to be pumpkin candle holders. And I'm showing you the candlestick or pillar candle holders as well as those ceramic looking pumpkins for tea lights that I picked up from Dollar Tree. Now, I've had these for a few years, if I'm not mistaken. They've just sort of been sitting around. I've used them for other projects and whatnot, but I figured, I'm going to go ahead and give these a makeover. I didn't want them to be the color that they originally are, although I do love this green here on the pillar candle holders, and I'm just giving them a good dusting or wipe down just to make sure there's no dust or anything sticky before I spray paint these. So as you can tell, the two pumpkins right there that hold the tea lights, they are different colors. Now, when I originally purchased these from Dollar Tree, again, like several years ago, I picked two different colors deliberately because I did like the blue as well as the white. But I use them as is. But now that we're giving them a new facelift, now I'm showing you the Rust-Oleum spray paint in the color copper. That's not the color I'm going to be painting those pillar candle holders. I will be painting this small ceramic pumpkin. Actually, I'm going to be taking the other orange pumpkin I have in my stash. I'm going to leave this one white, so ignore the fact that I'm showing you this one. But I do have a orange version of this white pumpkin, as you see here. And this is the one I'm going to paint in the copper color. Again, just to give it a fresh look and to give it like that metallic metal look. And this was a super easy transformation. You just take any spray paint color that you like that goes with your aesthetic and then just give it a good couple coats and let it fully dry. And then you have yourself a new decor that you can display for fall that might be more of like a different look than you've originally used in the past, like this. So rather than keeping it like this orange color, just wanted to give it a copper finish and just giving it like the look of metal. And it was a super easy transformation. I ended up just using this as a display piece, but I can certainly make this into a candle in the future if I wanted to, just by melting down some wax and then adding it to this little container. That would be super cute. So in that same vein, I'm going to go ahead and spray paint these pillar candle holders as well as those ceramic tea light candle holders in one uniform color, which is this Rust-Oleum spray paint in the color Capiz, I believe is how you pronounce it. So I'm just going to go ahead and make everything look cohesive by spray painting everything the same color. That's sort of like the tip and trick to trying to make your DIYs or like a decor piece that might not match, to sort of be like coordinating and to make it look more high-end looking, is to paint it the same color so that everything ties in together. So like as you saw in the before picture, it was like these green pillar candle holders and these ceramic pumpkins in white and in blue. Obviously together it wouldn't make a good match, but if you paint it all in the same color palette or just color in general, you can definitely make a decor that's more elevated looking just by simply, painting them one color and then making them tie in together, because these things are not meant to be together. But I decided, I'm going to make one cohesive piece just by painting them white in this really pretty creamy white. And rather than making this more of a permanent fixture, I didn't glue the pumpkins to the base just so that I'm able to use it in other ways in the future. So first thing I did was I took this rub and buff in the color Spanish Copper. Initially, I was using my fingers to sort of drag this along the different parts of the pumpkin and then just rubbing that in. But eventually you'll see that I resorted to using a foam brush, because it was so much easier to get the coverage I wanted. And the reason I was using my fingers is because I was sort of playing around with exactly how I wanted this pumpkin to look. I wasn't really sure if I was going to cover it, like give it a full coverage with the rub and buff. But after experimenting a little bit, I decided it didn't look right with just adding the rub and buff to different parts. So I went ahead and just opted to use a foam brush to apply the rub and buff to the entire pumpkin. And I'm going to be doing the same with the base, which is a pillar candle holder, because it just looked better to me. And again, after looking at it, it gave it the illusion or the look of metal or some type of metal piece. So I was really liking the direction it was heading when I did that. So I just continued on, just giving these pieces a good full coverage. And once I applied the rub and buff, I just took a napkin or a paper towel and just rubbed that in or buffed it out, just giving it the sheen that it leaves. And then it also does remove some of the excess rub and buff, allowing the white to show through, and it just giving it more of like a realistic appearance. So this is a finished look after I applied the rub and buff on both these pumpkins. I think it's definitely taking shape, so we'll see how it turns out in the end once I combine these with the candle stick holders. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same steps as I did with the pumpkins by applying rub and buff all over both of these pillar candle holders. Again, using the same method of brushing it on with a foam brush. And I'm just trying to make sure that I cover all of the white, but once I buff it out using the napkin, it does show a little bit of the white coming through, which is perfectly fine. But if I did take off too much of the rub and buff in certain areas, I just went back in and just reapplied more heavily in those areas that was showing a little bit too much of the base coat, because I did want this ultimately look more like metal with a little hints of the white peeking through. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this step up, and then we'll move on to the next step. So this is how it looks after I've applied the rub and buff. It's time to add these little votive LED candle holders, and voila, this is how they turned out. I think they came out super adorable. I love that they look like metal, and I think it just came out super cute. It totally transformed the look, just the simple spray paint technique with a rub and buff. And hopefully you guys like this idea. And again, I did not make this permanent, so I can always take it apart if need be and use it for something else. Let's move right along to the second idea for this video. So I spray painted this little ceramic container in this copper color, and then all I did to it was add a little bit of black wax just to darken up the copper just a tad bit. I could have gone a step further and made this into a little candle just by melting down some old wax, or even buying like Dollar Tree candles and just melting that down and adding it to this little container. It would have easily made a cute little candle and perfect for gift giving as well. But didn't do that. I just decided to keep this as a little dish. If I wanted to add some wrapped candies, I can, or just as a little trinket box, or just as a display piece. So just painting over these inexpensive containers from Dollar Tree can definitely elevate the look and make it look more expensive. And just throwing that into your vignettes can definitely spice up the look of your fall decor. So hopefully you guys got some good ideas in these first two projects. And I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments down below. And then we're going to move right along to DIY number 3. So for DIY number 3, this is actually just a quick idea for using Dollar Tree items to spruce up your fall decor. I took this soap pump lid that came from Dollar Tree for $1.25. It's in this black color. It's already painted for you. But if you wanted to repaint this, it's easy to do just by spray painting it in the color of your choice. But I figured I'd keep it just this color. I also took a mason jar, which I already had on hand. It's already in the orange color, so it's just perfect. But Dollar Tree also carries like the pumpkin shaped mason jars that can easily be converted to like a soap pump or a soap dispenser. So as you can see here, all the pieces, the components that come with this pump, is super easy to assemble. All you have to do is just screw things on and attach it. So I'm showing you the mason jar that I'm using. This is something I had in my stash. It was just holding some beads. I just removed the label from it, gave it a good cleaning, and all I'm going to do is just transform this mason jar into a cute little soap dispenser for fall. And I just added this soap from Dollar Tree. It's already orange, but if you wanted to get like pumpkin scented soap or any of the flavors that's, fall flavors or scents, you can definitely do that. But this is soap I already had on hand. I went ahead and just poured that right into this container, and that was just as easy as it can be, just to add a little bit of fall touch and color to any space like where you might wash your hands, like a bathroom or a kitchen. So that was it. If you are lucky enough to find these little pump lids, definitely transform just a cute little container and make it into a soap container. So for DIY number 4, I'm going to be taking these 3 candlestick holders. These are metal and they're from the Dollar Tree. I picked up 2 of the same height. It's a taller candlestick holders. And I picked up 1 of the shorter one. I wanted to have 3. And so I just opted to go with 2 taller ones and 1 shorter one. So here I'm just showing you different options. I have this unfinished wood chunk. It's like a circular wood piece, and it's like a wood blank. And I was deciding between that or these. These are like the little wreath charms that Dollar Tree carries, and they're on the thinner side. Like as far as the thickness goes, they're a little bit thinner as opposed to the unfinished wood blank. Those ones have a more chunkier look to them. So that is the one that I decided to use for these projects because I feel like it gives more height to the candlesticks. And since it is unfinished wood, it's easier to stain and just sort of start from scratch. Now, if I wanted to stain the other one, I'd have to sand it down. I'm taking some spackling. This is also from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to use it to fill the holes where they have it punched out, like, where the string was attached. So I'm going to fill those holes with some spackling. This is optional, but if it doesn't bother you that you have holes in your wood, you can leave it be, but you can also use spackling or use air dried clay. You can also use hot glue, but I'm going to be staining these wood pieces. And once I applied all of the spackling into the holes, I just made sure that I had like a smooth finish. I took a sanding sponge and just scuffed off any of the excess spackling just so I have more of a smooth, even finish, and that when I go to stain these wood pieces, I wouldn't be left with like any unevenness or any like like lump of the spackling. So I went ahead and took my brush and dipped it in some Waverly Antique Wax, also dipping it into some water just to thin it out and give it more of a stain consistency. And this is something that you can do with any paint actually, just by diluting it with some water or just alternating between paint and water to give it more of a stain. So after applying the antique wax, I just wiped back any excess using a napkin. And then I went ahead after I dried it, the first coat, I went ahead and reapplied another coat just because the wood was a little, like the wood color or the finish was a little too light. So I went ahead and reapplied. I'm showing you this, I believe it's Deco Art, or I can't remember the brand, but this is from Hobby Lobby. This is in the color Ice Espresso. It's much like the Rub and Buff. They come in different metallic finishes, and I thought this was a really nice color. It's sort of like a brownish gold color, and I'm just using my foam brush to apply this to the candlestick holders. And because the candlestick holders have like a lot of raised areas, it was perfect because it sort of emphasized those areas and gave it definition. I just went ahead and applied this to where I wanted that sheen to come through, the metallic color to come through. I was alternating between foam brush and finger, just depending on the area and where I wanted to get into. And then I used a napkin to just buff off the excess and just give it a smooth finish. And I just kept going on until I was happy with the look of these candlestick holders. And in some areas, if I went heavy-handed on the, we'll call it Rub and Buff, although it's not the actual brand of Rub and Buff. So wherever I went heavy-handed on that little metallic finish, I just went back and just applied some dark wax, because that's essentially what I ended up doing after applying this metallic finish to it. I just went in with some dark wax just to balance off any of the areas that was a little too bright. And because I did want a good balance between the black finish and that ice espresso metallic finish. So I kept repeating the steps and going back and forth until I was happy. And this was a really easy step, very fun to do, in my opinion, just because you just sort of play with it, experiment until you're happy with it. And there's really no rhyme or reason or any rules. It's just until it's pleasing to your eyes and you're content with the outcome. And now that I'm finished with this step, it was time to attach these metal candlestick holders to the base, which is the chunky wood rounds. And again, this is just to elevate the look of these candlestick holders, give them more depth and dimension, and make them look more substantial. So by adding a thick slice of wood like the one I'm using, it definitely makes it look like it's a heavier piece and makes it look more expensive. So I just used some hot glue. This is more of the Surebond hot glue, but you can also use permanent adhesive like super glue or like Quick and Thick, anything like that. But I just went ahead and just used hot glue. And this is how they look. I think already they look really cute. And if I wanted to keep it just the natural black color, that would have been fine as well. But here are some floral stems that I picked up from Hobby Lobby last year. I used them in my displays. But this year I decided, this is the perfect stem to wrap around these candlestick holders, just again to add a little bit more like pizzazz to these candlestick holders, make them look a little unique, and also add that fall touch. So this was really easy without actually permanently placing these to the candlestick holders. All I did was use the stem. It's a wired stem, so all it took was a little bending and finagling and wrapping around the base or the um, the candlestick holder, like the thin part of it. And that was pretty much it. I did that to two of them and I kept one plain so it wouldn't be too overpowering or too overwhelming. And then I added three of these LED votive candle holders. These are also from Dollar Tree. These are super easy and great options for using on these candlestick holders, because although these are meant to hold like taper candles, the part that actually holds the candle, it's made a little too big, and you would essentially have to use something like insert something in there so that it cushions the candle to hold it in place. So I figured using these votive candles in lieu of a taper candle is better, and they actually will hold into place. So this is a finished look. I hope you guys like this idea. I think it came out adorable. I think it's unique and super customizable. You can use any type of stems or florals that you want, but I think this is an easy and affordable way to upgrade the look of a Dollar Tree item. So now we're on to DIY number 5. This one is just another idea for using a Dollar Tree item for fall. I picked up this pumpkin shaped jar. They do have it in clear as well, but I grabbed the orange one. I thought this was really cute. Now you can use these jars for so many different things, but I decided to use it as a cookie jar. I found this box of maple cream cookies from Dollar Tree, and according to my son, they're really good. So I was excited to go ahead and put these out in the little jar just to display, make it look cute. And this is how they look. They look like little mini sandwiches. They smell really good too. They smell just like maple. They have a little maple leaf embossed on each one of the cookies. So I thought that was super cute. Now this would make a really cute gift item as well if you wanted to gift this to someone. I think it's just a cute little presentation. But all I did to further embellish this jar is basically added a wooden stem or a stump that Dollar Tree carries, those little birch wood stumps. I haven't seen them out lately, but I've had mine for quite some time in my stash. I grabbed a leaf from a floral stem, and I just grabbed one leaf and then hot glued that down in the center of the lid, and then added the little stump to that. And I think this makes such a cute little decorative piece, and it's functional as well. Now, like I mentioned, you can use this jar to display anything. You can add treats, you can add candies, you can use it for like creamers. You know, there's so many possibilities. And again, it's just a cute way of displaying this, maybe in your coffee bar or in your kitchen. So I love how you can take little simple items that are inexpensive and just put your own spin to make it functional for you. So moving right along to DIY number 6, I'm showing you how I took some Dollar Tree items and transformed them into some cute floral displays, fall displays. I show you how I use them in 2 different ways. I grabbed this tray that I had in my stash. Dollar Tree carries these all the time for all seasons. As a matter of fact, when I was there recently, I almost picked up a gold one, and it already had like this sort of hobnail trim around it. But then I remembered I already had this buffalo check design tray in my stash. So I figured, you know, I can replicate the look by just spray painting it. I already own the spray paint that I wanted to use. So I went ahead and just grabbed some of this pearl trim. It's a sticker that I also had in my craft stash. And I just went ahead and trimmed out the edges of this tray, giving it the faux hobnail trim look. Once I spray paint this, you won't even know that this was a sticker trim that I added, and the buffalo plaid design will be non-existent. So you'll see in the finished result how easy it is to just spray paint something like this with a design or a color that you don't necessarily care for or want to decorate with. And by adding a simple trim like this with sticker trim, Tree carries a lot of those circle bead looking stickers that you can also use if you don't have something like this. And I grabbed this copper spray paint and then went ahead and painted it, and voila, easily transformed this tray to make it look like it was always like this. So I grabbed these really cute stemless glass, but they're made of plastic. Those are from the Dollar Tree. They did come in the clear with like an iridescent appearance to it. This is more like an amber color with an iridescent look. I thought that was really pretty. And automatically when I saw it in the store, I thought of making it into a candle display. And it can also be used as a base to create like a centerpiece, and you'll see that here shortly. So I took some of these eucalyptus leaves already again in my stash. I own a lot of florals just from previous years, and I just grabbed what I had on hand, cut them down to size just to sort of embellish the tray, and added these little votive LED candles, and then added them inside this stemless glass, which we are now calling a candle holder. And voila, this easily transformed the look of what's supposed to be drinkware into a candle display. So again, taking things like this from Dollar Tree and reinventing them so that they are used for a different purpose is really easy to do and is very cost effective if you want the look for less. Like if you want to have decoration that looks nice, but you barely spent any money on it. So here's a second way I use this display. Rather than putting candles, I went ahead and grabbed these hydrangeas, which again, I already had on hand. They look like dried hydrangeas because of the color. So I thought that would make a really pretty display, super pretty and perfect for fall. I went ahead and just cut them down to size that would fit into each individual glass. And I kept the eucalyptus along the tray just for that extra added embellishment, and then just added these bunches of hydrangea into each container, and instantly I have a centerpiece. It's like a floral display. I also added some pumpkins to the tray, which you will see in the reveal. But again, something like this is so versatile. You can use it in so many different ways. You can use any types of flowers, any colors, greenery, anything that you have on hand or is more your style. If you want to use sunflowers, if you want to use mums, you know, any type of fall foliage or florals, anything that your heart desires, you can definitely personalize something like this to fit your aesthetic. But look how pretty this looks. Just a simple way to dress up some inexpensive items without spending a whole lot of money. So there it is, displayed with some mini pumpkins. I think this is adorable, especially if you put that like on a center of a table or your dining table and just sort of fluff it up to make it more substantial. So I hope you guys like that idea. We're moving right along to the last DIY of this video. This one is pretty amazing. I saw the idea of this on Etsy. I've seen people selling it. I've also seen it on online, like boutique type stores that sell it for way more than we can actually recreate it. So I'm sure we all have pumpkins of different shapes and sizes in our craft stash. If you're anyone who loves fall and who loves to decorate, I'm sure you own pumpkins already. And if you're tired of how they look, it's easy to give them a whole new look just by painting them. So what I'm going to be creating here are birch looking pumpkins. I don't know if you guys have seen these at all anywhere, or you know what I'm talking about, but after I'd seen them, like again, I've seen them like on online stores, in those types of places. And I was inspired to recreate this look because I own so many pumpkins from years of collecting, and I figured I can take a few that I have on hand and just transform them to make them look like birch wood pumpkins. I took this color plaster, it's by Waverly, and just went ahead and gave this a good coat or two, especially the taller pumpkin because it had a different, like more yellowy, color to it and required more paint. So I just painted it. As you can see, there's a difference between the left and the right. The original color is more cream and the right is more like, I guess, off-white. So you can also use regular white, but I didn't have just plain white on hand, but plaster is a really pretty neutral color. So after I painted each of the pumpkins, I also removed the stem so that I can paint those brown because I didn't like the color that they were originally, which is a green, and they look really fake. So I took some Java Brown by Folk Art and just painted those up and then dried them up really quick and then applied them back to where they sat. Now the real fun part is the part where we start to create the look of birchwood. And I really just experimented with trying to achieve that look. I started this DIY not really having the steps of how I was going to make these pumpkins look like birchwood pumpkins. I only imagined it in my head of what I thought I was going to do. And I must say I was pretty impressed with the overall result. It's really amazing how you can take an inspiration and just recreate it just with your own imagination, because honestly, I did not follow any steps or any kind of tutorial to make this. I just decided like what it was going to take to get that look. So you'll see here exactly what I did to achieve it. And I'm telling you, it's super easy to do. And if you like the look of birchwood and you want to make your pumpkins look like faux wood, this is definitely very achievable. So first thing I did was I took this dull knife. It's dull because I've used it for so much crafting. It's just a paring knife, but you can use whatever knife you have on hand. Just be careful. I started making little slashes all over the pumpkin. I was trying to imagine the look of birch wood, like as far as the indents and whatnot on the wood. So I took a little bit of trial and error because, again, I was just going off of a quick picture of what I had seen online. But in doing this, I actually wasn't looking at something to reference anything. I was just trying to remember how it, or imagine how birchwood would look like. So I just started like making little slits here and there, just going in vertical and horizontal fashion, just creating sort of like lines going down and like a horizontal line going across. But there, it was a very haphazard process. There was really no rhyme or reason to it. It was just a lot of trial and error. And I knew that in order to accentuate those lines, which were essentially going to give the look of birchwood, I had to apply some darkness to it. So I did use some antique Waverly wax. Initially, I was using a wipe. It's a wet wipe. And I was dipping it into the wax and then trying to rub that into the slashes and gouges so that it would, the color would sort of, penetrate through those slashes. But you'll see here that I switch it up by using a paintbrush instead, because I wasn't necessarily getting the darkness or the depth in the color where the gouges and the slashes were just by using that wipe. I think it was too wet and it was just soaking up too much of the color. And in order for me to get into the slashes a lot more deeper, I had to use a brush. So you'll see eventually I'm going to switch over to using a paintbrush. But as you can see here, look at how all the texture is coming through and how it's starting to take shape and look like birchwood. At least I think so. I'm pretty amazed. Like, I think it looks really authentic, and it's really cool and fun process. You should definitely try this if you like this type of look and you want to give your pumpkins a textured and wood look to it. This, I highly recommend this process. So as you can see here, I went ahead and started brushing over those gouges and slashes with the paintbrush, just concentrating into the grooves so that the wax, the antique wax, would go in more deeply and give that depth of a color. So I'm showing you a side by side of the before and after. Look how much it's changed in appearance just by the steps that I showed you. I think it's pretty amazing. So I repeated the same steps to the other pumpkins. And again, this is all like trial and error. I didn't necessarily use same pattern or anything. The way I was cutting into the pumpkin with all of these, it was just very sporadic, and there was no like uniform or consistent way that I was doing it. I was just going with the flow, just having fun and enjoying the process, and really being amazed at how making those little slash marks and things like that can give you the look and the appearance of birchwood. So I did make sure to add gouges, not just little slits and slashes, because the gouges where I kind of dug the knife in a little deeper and twisted the knife around just so it gave it more of like a hole, and instead of just little line marks, it just will give it more of an authentic look, because you know, birch wood or wood in general is not always perfect, and this, it's more rustic if anything. So I did want to give it more of that authentic look to it. So this second one, if I'm being honest, I kind of went crazy with the way the pattern that I cut into the pumpkin, as you can see, or I don't know if you can tell, but it had a lot of gashes and slits and things like that. I made sure on the third one that I spread out the slits and gashes and not overwhelmed one area. But overall, I think this process was a very easy technique, super fun to do. And I didn't even have to go out and spend any money because I used the things I already had. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you did. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in my next one.